Welcome to the March 11th, 2024 meeting of the Orlando City Council. I love having a chamber full of smiling faces. That must mean we're doing something good today. Not all smiles, but 90% smiles. So that's a good thing. And I think you're smiling because you know that Commissioner Stewart is going to lead us in the invocation and the pledge today. So how about that, Commissioner?
Great, thank you. Will you bow your heads with me, please? Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all those who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings and our sustenance, and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, the various levels of city officials we have here, and in particular for those assembled at council. I'm asking you to graciously grant us wisdom to govern amid the conflicts of interest, sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony, even when there's honest disagreement. I pray for this agenda set before us today. Pray for an assurance of what you would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in our beloved city of Orlando. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gators. Let's call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and determine the quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Here.
Commissioner Stewart?
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan? Here. Commissioner Hill? Here. Commissioner Burns?
Here.
Mayor Dyer?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First item of business is consideration of minutes from the agenda review and city council meetings of February the 19th, 2024. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, today we are celebrating a member of our city team who is retiring after more than 33 years of service. I'd love Rosa to come up and share some details about Carlton Burke, who's been a valuable member of our IT staff for a very long time.
Good afternoon,
Rosa.
Mayor, Commissioner, and guests. I, along with the information technology team, are here to celebrate an invaluable member of our city family for 33 years, Carlton Burke. Since 1990, Carlton has been providing excellent customer service to the city staff, installing and troubleshooting hardware and software, and recommending applications and equipment to ensure the continuity of city operations. Over the year, Carlton has played a key role in various critical technology projects, demonstrating his problem-solving skills. Projects such as navigating through hurricane activation to assisting implementing system and overseeing countless computer replacements. Carlton's impact has been felt across the organization for the last 33 years. His dedication also extended beyond the workplace. Carlton is an Air Force veteran and proud graduate of Evans High School who embodies the value of service. His mentorship goes beyond helping his staff reach their potential. He is an active member of the school's alumni organization, helped lead the Students Advisory Committee, and even provides catered meals for the school's athletes and staff. He is a generous man who loves to shower his family with thoughtful gifts, such as tickets to his beloved Tampa Bay Bucks games. As he embarks on his next chapter, Carlton leaves a legacy of hard work and collaboration. We will miss his expertise and his friendship, but the knowledge he had bestowed on his peers will always be remembered and cherished. So, on behalf of the city, IT, and me personally, I wish Carlton all the best in his well-earned retirement. We hope he spends time with his loved ones, travel the world, and enjoys the rest and relaxation that he richly deserves. Thank you, Carlton, for 33 years of exemplary and dedicated service. It has been an honor working with you. Mayor Dyer, would you please do the honor of reading his proclamation? So Carlton, could you please
Carlton, come on up.
join us?
You want to bask in the glow for a minute while you're right here? Okay. Retirement proclamation, City of Orlando. The City of Orlando is proud of the service rendered by its employees who have contributed in no small measure to the enhancement of the City Beautiful as one of the most progressive cities in the nation. Progress in municipal government is predicated for the greatest part upon the loyalty and efficiency of the employees and on their ability to carry out their duties in the highest tradition of public service. Carlton, on the occasion of your retirement from the employ of the City of Orlando after more than 33 years of service, the Orlando City Council wishes to express its esteem of the sterling qualities manifested in your devotion and loyalty. Now, therefore, I proclaim grateful appreciation of your long and honorable record of faithful service to the City of Orlando and extend best wishes for good health and happiness.
Patty gets in the middle again.
Family, you want to come get him?
Where's the thing?
Tag. Tag. Tell her put a tag on the back. A tag on the back. The green tag.
There you go. IT. Oh, wow.
I didn't realize IT was in it.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently nothing's being done upstairs. All right.
Get to work.
Okay. you always can bother me.
Okay, so Carlton attracted quite a crowd. I think that's the biggest retirement party we've had in a
That's right.
long time, probably, but well-deserved. Okay, we will move on then to the mayor's update. March is here. This is our first council meeting, and we are celebrating Women's History Month, and our city is fortunate to have a long lineage of women in every background who have played critical roles in shaping our community. That's everybody from Commissioner Mabel Butler to Mayor Glenda Hood to Chief Val Demings and so many others, including two that are serving with us today, Commissioner Sheen and Commissioner Hill. Thank you for your work that has strengthened our city. And our city staff, led by another trailblazer, Kathy Russell, are supporting our Women's History Month events throughout the community to help us reaffirm our commitment to the rights and privileges that are available to women and all residents equally, so that Orlando remains inclusive and welcoming. So please enjoy some of our Women's Month events. Moving to items on the agenda, last month we unveiled the Canopy, which used to be known as the Under Eye, and its urban gathering space, Under Eye 4, that's going to create a vibrant, inclusive, sustainable urban oasis. And today we'll approve a temporary ride-share pilot and parking concept in that space. I think we've come to understand that some of the businesses on and around Church Street and Pine Street are having a hard time surviving without that surface parking, so we're combining a great concept of having the park under there with some additional, adding back some of the parking. So it'll be a temporary usage, and then we will move into the full permanent project design. Also on today's agenda, under items D1 and 3, are a renewal and expansion of our Community Violence Intervention Program. Thanks to a $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Office of Justice, we launched our CVI initiative in November of 2022 with the goal of reducing and preventing gun violence, and the project has shown certainly some great early success. Firearm homicides are down 20%, non-fatal shootings are down 36%, and we've saved between, somewhere in the neighborhood of $8.5 million by preventing likely injuries from shootings and homicides. It's a project that's in partnership with the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, and we'd like to recognize them for the dedication and helping us on that. Item J3 and J4, we have reached a juncture. I don't know how many years we're past the date that the locals were supposed to take over the operation of Sunrail, but we've been working diligently with DOT to come up with a plan to do that. All 5 local governments are in concert on doing what needs to be done, so we're the first ones out of the box to vote on that, but it's important that we accomplish this. DOT's done a lot and actually operated it for, I guess, 3 years longer than they were supposed to, so it's our turn to take over that service. And then one of the items that I think a lot of people are here for are the CRA is purchasing 4 catalytic properties in our downtown area to help with our Project DTO action plan. There are 4 diverse pieces of property, but 2 are going to help us with our plans on creating a great entranceway from the southwest part of Lake Eola Park and add to the parcels that are in the park and expand the park. So very excited about that. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is a number of items that are acted upon through a single vote of the council. We give each of our council members an opportunity to comment on items that are on the consent agenda, as well as update you on important happenings from their districts. We rotate the order that we do that, and you know what? I just saw that Mayor Frederick has joined us. He was not here before, so I certainly want to acknowledge him. As well as everybody else in the room. And with that, I'll call on Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome, Mayor Frederick. It's always good seeing you, and it's good seeing your name on the building as we walk in every morning. So thank you very much. Let me share a couple of things going on. First of all, thank you to Lou Gardens for their plant sale. How many of you guys went to the plant sale this past weekend? It was great. I may have been the biggest one yet, but had a good time. Got a chance to get over there early on Saturday and get some good stuff. But it was a great event. Congratulations to Jennifer DeHollander and her entire staff. I appreciate that. Yesterday was Sunday in the Park, College Park Neighborhood Association. We had a good turnout there. A couple of thousand people kind of went through, spent the afternoon there. And last Friday, we had the opportunity, the Onyx magazine recognizing some women in our community, and we recognized Natasha Williams, one of our former city staff attorneys. Well, it was a neat opportunity to be there and see all the wonderful women that were there. I want to say also a special welcome to Miami Grill and Bar. They are now coming back to Orlando, and they're up in the Rosemont area, up on 441. You get a chance to swing by. It's been very well received. We just got to make sure we give them plenty of business. So you guys get a chance to get up there. So upcoming events real quickly. Tomorrow is the Neighborhood Watch Meeting over in Dubstred. So if you guys get a chance to come to that. And the long-awaited opening of the Publix at the Packing District is this Thursday. For those of us who are in College Park are excited about having an alternative over there for Publix, and we appreciate that. The Baldwin Park Easter egg hunt is coming up. The Audubon Park Easter egg coming up. The College Park Easter egg is coming up, Easter egg hunt, and the Rosemont Easter egg is coming up. So if you get a chance, look at my calendar and you'll see those items. Lou Gardens is doing a special event on March 30th, Dog Day. Get a chance to bring your dog around the Lou Gardens. It's a great chance to see the gardens. So please enjoy that. On the agenda today, let me share just a couple quick things. First of all, thank you to our staff. B5 is now moving forward, our Pasadena, Marks, and Highland Street drainage project. We've been talking about that for probably 5 or 6 years and redoing that. We had our community meeting last week. Today we formalized the agreement with the design and construction team. So that's on the agenda today for B5. And then, Mayor, as you mentioned, the DOJ grant about the Community Violence Intervention Grant from Representative Frost. It's going to include 3 areas. One of them is Signal Hill in my district. I'm looking forward to seeing the results there. We've had some challenges up in that area, and looking forward to seeing some positive things come out of there. Appreciate Abraham and the work he's done, and had a good long talk with him last week about it. And so really thrilled about that moving forward. So, and that's all that I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. We'll move on to Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer. And I know everybody's probably heard by now about the swan deaths at Lake Eola Park. We lost 4 swans, Polish mute, Australian black, and 2 of our beloved blacknecks, which were the babies that succumbed to avian flu. We've had no additional deaths of birds in the last week, which is a good thing. We're hoping that we have finally reached herd immunity with that, but it's also affected ducks and inhingas, over 20 birds in all. And people have asked, what can you do? If you want to feed them lettuce, not bread or popcorn. The feeders are down for now, so if you want to bring something to feed the swans, please bring lettuce. Sanitize your shoes if you go to the park, and don't touch the birds. And the Fish and Wildlife Commission have recommended allowing it to run its course for herd immunity. I know everybody's kind of upset about that, but if we herded them up right now to try to vaccinate them, we would make them all sick, so it's just not a good idea right now. So we will vaccinate for this for next year. Folks have asked why we didn't vaccinate last year. It's very unusual to get avian flu in a large-scale area, an open area like a park. It usually impacts poultry. We just happen to be lucky to be one of the first ones where it happened to, unfortunately, and very unlucky because, like I say, there's our beloved swans in Lake Eola. But I just want to say, if you want to help as well, you can donate to the Swanathon if you want to help us replace the birds that have passed away. You can assist with our Swan Roundup that we have every November. And I just want to shout out and thank the rangers because they actually did a really good job of getting the sick birds out. A couple of them actually got sick before they knew that it was a contagious thing. And people criticize our staff sometimes, very unfairly say that they don't do enough, but these rangers love those birds. And I just want to say shout out to all the rangers at Lake Eola Park. Y'all do an amazing job. I appreciate you. And I know you're just as sad for those birds dying as everyone else is. But it looks like we're now moving past that, and we can get through this and maybe work to get the population back up at Lake Eola Park.
Mayor Frederick, thank you for being here today, as well as working with everyone here today on this amazing purchase that we'll be talking about at the CRA. But the best way to control land is to own it. And it's a wonderful, great initiative from many community groups. I'm going to let y'all, you talk about all your involvement, but you know, Lynn Long, Eugenia Sevchek, thank you for your leadership. Ted Haddock, you know, all your help. Lori Botts, always having to figure out a way to purchase land when we never have enough money to do so. And everyone who's come in support today. It's really a dream come true to be able to leave this legacy of adding, you know, acreage to Lake Eola Park. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your assistance in this, as well as your fundraising, because I know you did a lot in a very difficult time. You had to raise a lot of this money during COVID when we couldn't have events, we couldn't do any of that. So it was a really heavy lift, but y'all made it happen, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. And of course, thank you for your service, Mayor Frederick, and all that you've done to help lead the way and push this city forward. Of course, Mayor Dyer and you guys were a tag team, and we're better because both of you guys serve. So it's an honor and a privilege to be sitting here today with two of the greatest mayors this side of heaven. I'm just going to be brief today, if that's all right with,
Yes.
because we have a power-packed house, a lot of great things are on the agenda. But I will comment and echo Commissioner Stewart's words as far as our crime violence intervention program. Congratulations to our FRRC and the team that's leading that. You guys have done a great and outstanding job with bringing our shooting and homicides down, and those that are being targeted, and the work you're doing with those young folk. But hand in hand with our OPD law enforcement. So I got to give them a huge shout out because it's done in unison. It's not just one thing that's helping the city. So great job, and to Chief Smith and all the work that they've done together. With D4, I'm glad to see that funding there because we do know our shooters, and we've seen that they're getting younger. 13 to 18 is really that, for lack of a better word, sweet spot, what we have to really be laser focused on, and hopefully some of those delinquency funds will go towards that while the CVI goes towards those 18 and up. So I know we'll talk more about that, but I'd like to thank you all for what you're doing. Also, I'll briefly say it is a great day, and I know Mr. Downtown himself is smiling down upon us, Mayor Thomas Chapman. See, excuse me, because you're young gals to me, but he called you his little old ladies. That's what Thomas would call you. And all the great heavy lifting is Commissioner Sheehan stated, and of course Ted. I mean, when it comes to history, and this is your passion, and making the city better because of it, and thank you all. I'm also excited about more of the purchasing. We're purchasing downtown next to Lake Eola and making that a complete campus and ecosystem. As I travel and go to a few of these housing seminars or just downtown seminars, and they're talking about cities purchasing more of downtown so that they can make it more of a work flex type of system. So I'm excited to what we can do, and I would say when there's a time in Paramore and I saw the city purchasing the land, some of us had angst about it. But now, as we're 20 years past that, Mayor, that was the greatest decision that the city did, and Laura, in your leadership, was to purchase the bulk of the land there in our urban core, and hopefully we can do it downtown. Because of that, we've seen great revitalization there in the Paramore area, from housing to economic development to a university. Who would thought UCF would be downtown in Valencia? So this really, really is another catalyst, as we stated, if we're going to be future ready. We talk about being future ready, and the only way we can truly be future ready is possess the land, because then we can dictate the growth of Orlando. So with that being said, also, I'm just so glad to be annexing another portion of what will become the city into the city limits, so that, we can continue to be that bright and shining star on the southeast region. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to Commissioner Burns.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon to everyone. And thank you, Mayor Fredericks, for being here. Good to see you, and thank you for everything that you've done for our city over the years. On Saturday, February 24th, I had the pleasure of attending the Fair Housing Fair held in District 6 at the Grand Avenue Neighborhood Center. I want to recognize Kimberly Rankin and who's our Human Relations Manager, and her team for providing such a professional environment where resources were shared, because oftentimes when we have a tight housing market, that can be a breeding ground for discriminatory practices and things like that. So we want to make sure that all the residents of the city of Orlando knows where to come if they have any concerns about housing and how they're being treated in that housing. So thank you to Kim and her team for that. Also, I attended the 38th Annual Crime Prevention Award Ceremony, and this is an opportunity where we acknowledge and recognize our Neighborhood Block Captains of the Year. And so for District 6, Ms. Jeanette Marcus, out of the Great Richmond Heights neighborhood, was selected as the Watch Captain of the Year. So I just want to say thank Ms. Marcus for her dedication to safety in District 6. Also, on the 27th, I had the pleasure of attending an event by Congressman Maxwell Frost, the Black History Luminary event, celebrating the rich heritage and contributions of Orlando's Black community. I wanted to recognize Mr. Joseph Caesar, who's one of our team members who works over at the Grand Avenue Neighborhood Center. He was recognized that evening, and his name read into the congressional record for all the great services that he provides to our youth and our families. So kudos to Joe and his team over at Grand Avenue Neighborhood Center. Also, on March 6th, I hosted our quarterly Conversations with Black Men. This was a night for Black men to get together and have a safe space just to talk about things that we encounter, mental health, different support. So I'd just like to thank everyone who participated in that. A few upcoming events. On this Wednesday the 13th at the L. Claudia Allen Center, I have my mobile satellite office hours, and that will be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you want to meet with me and my staff, please contact us. Also, part of our Get Fit District 6 series, our Bike District 6, this will be a bike and brunch event where we will be riding bicycles through the great neighborhoods of District 6. Again, the opportunity for us just to get out and be active and get to know our neighbors. Also, on March 23rd at 9 a.m., starting at the Smith Center, it would be the first Unity Prayer Walk, which will be led by the Richmond Estates neighborhood. And it's a prayer walk. We'll be walking from First Baptist to the Smith Center. So again, just an opportunity for us to come together, pray for our community, pray for the members, the leadership of our community as we continue to move forward in unity. Also, on March 27th, I'll be having my State of District 6 Town Hall meeting. Will happen at the Dr. James R. Smith Center. So this is an opportunity for the residents of District 6 to come speak to me and hear some of the great things that we have planned for the upcoming year. Mayor, on the agenda today, I just want to highlight 2 items. One, just want to thank all the citizens who are giving their time for our community advisory boards. We wouldn't be able to do the work within these different boards if it wasn't for you all being willing to give of your time and talent. So thank you for that. And also I want to just express my support for items D1 and 3, the expansion of the community violence intervention DOJ funding. I think we're getting some great results, and I just want to say thank you to Abe and your team for all that you do, for just being dedicated to the work, but also from the innovative approach. So keep up the good work. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. I've got a lot of things going on in the southeast part of the city, and I just want to mention them, excuse me, because a lot of folks put some effort in this, so I'll be quick, because I know we've got a big agenda. On the 22nd, we, in the Lake Nona area, we opened the new Aloft Hotel near the U.S. Tennis Association Training Center. For those of you who don't know, they have far exceeded expectations, which, in addition to public play for local residents, it's really turned into a nice tourism draw where folks from around the country fly in close to the airport, play tennis with their friends and their clubs, enjoy the activities, and then head back home. So they're doing great, and opened a new hotel, the Aloft Hotel. Also on the 26th, I went to a tour of the new SimCom flight training facility in Lake Nona. That's a brand new facility where they have brought in 11 flight simulators, where they do recurring training for private pilots, not commercial, private pilots, private aviation. The neat part about that for Lake Nona is these pilots come in from around the country, spend a week or 2 getting their recurrent training, they're staying in the hotels, they're eating at the restaurants, and it's really a good benefit to Lake Nona. So thanks to SimCom for doing that. On the 27th here in town, I joined all the commissioners for the crime prevention meeting with the neighborhoods, where we recognize neighborhood watch leaders. Thank you to all those folks who do that. We could not handle our neighborhoods without help of the constituents and the neighbors. So thank you for that. On 3-2, and Ed, will you cue it up? Well, Ed's running a little tape. On the 2nd, we did our spring festival. This is about a 45-second run, and I'll talk over it. But the reason I wanted to show this is we did it in the Vista Lakes community. We had about 1,300 people show up, and as you can see, we did everything from petting zoos to bounce houses to some of the local vendors came out to share their things. We had some of the local kids from the school perform, cheerleaders, band, violins, etc. The idea was to have a family-friendly day on Saturday, March 2nd, and I just want to thank, we had 8 different departments from the city help us out, and that was our Public Works Department, OPD and OFD, our Wetlands group was out there to share what they do at the Wetlands Park, Community Affairs, our Hispanic Outreach, Ola was there, the transportation folks were there giving away helmets to the kids for their bikes, and our National Resource Group was there giving away free plants and trees. And so I want to thank my team and everyone that helped. It was a great event, and we prayed that it didn't rain, and we got lucky. It did not rain, so that was great. We'll do it every year, first Saturday in March. So thanks to all for that. Upcoming, I did want to mention tomorrow night, the Orlando Economic Partnership is holding their annual outdoor barbecue. It's one of the best business networking events in the city, in my opinion, so I'd encourage anybody that wants to partake, go on the Orlando Economic Partnership website. So with that, I want to talk about one item on the consent agenda, and we'll save the rest for later, but I want to talk about J, 3, and 4, which is Sunrail. I'm frustrated with this because we don't really have much we can do about it right now. I learned about our request to fund $17 million from the city budget to cover the shortfalls of Sunrail. And I think we need, as a community, to think about it. We can't fix it today, but we need to address the issue of Sunrail. And here's some bullet points. And I've been briefed by our transportation folks that are involved with this. I get it. But here's the reality. Sunrail has about 1,000 riders a year, or excuse me, 1 million riders a year. And remember, they don't run nights and weekends. So when you do the math, that's about 260 days a year. When you do the math, that's about 5,000 people a day riding Sunrail. And remember, this was designed as a commuter rail, not a light rail system, a commuter rail to get folks downtown and off I-4. So we've got about 5,000 people riding it a day. The ridership, by their own admission, has been flat for 4 years. Post-COVID, it just has not recovered. Some of that is because of hybrid work in the office buildings, but the reality is ridership on Sunrail has been flat for 4 years. The operating cost of Sunrail is about $75 million a year. And if you do the simple math, 1 million riders divided by 75 million is about $75 a ride. Pretty expensive. And of that ride, a little over 2 million of that 75 is covered by people paying fares. So if you do the math, it's about 3.5% of the cost is covered by people buying tickets. The rest is coming from revenue, CFX pays some rental fees for the rail, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, all the ancillary income's about 25 million, rough numbers. So the bottom line is Sunrail needs support from the government sector of about $50 million a year. And our portion is a third of that here at the city, so we're putting up $17 million. The challenge for me on this is we are putting money up, and again, right now, I guess we don't have much choice because Florida Department of Transportation is turning it over to us. But we're putting this money up with absolutely no discussion, at least none I'm aware of how can we change ridership? Can we increase revenue? Can we reduce costs? Can we do nights and weekends? Maybe, maybe not. But we don't have any of those discussions. And there's been community input that I'm aware of. They have public meetings, but I'm not sure too many people knew about them. But Mayor, I guess I gotta say the thing I'm most frustrated about is as a city commissioner, I heard about the request for $17 million less than a week ago. And I just don't think that was good form from our staff. But I do acknowledge there's not much we can do about it. But as a community, we gotta figure out if it was designed as a commuter rail system, is it working? And if it's not, I'm not suggesting we would get rid of it, but we got to make some changes. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, we're going to be throwing in $17 million a year at least, and that's if expenses are flat. So I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about that during the workshop, but it went pretty long today, so I didn't get a chance to talk to my peers about that. But again, I hope we can put that on workshop agenda. We can talk about it because it's an expensive process.
Commissioner, we can do a workshop on that. We probably should, but we've been working on this turnover agreement for probably 5 years, I would guess. And certainly the expense of Sunrail as it exists today is far exceeds what it was predicted to be. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at Sunrail as this is the first piece of a system that needs to go to the airport and become a 24/7 thing. We're talking about the Sunshine Corridor, which would eventually connect Sunrail to the airport and to iDrive and eventually Disney, and that's when you become a rail system, a commuter rail system is never profitable. So I was about to use that term and I didn't very quickly. It's always going to be subsidized, but if this were the end of the route, I probably agree with you that this isn't a successful venture, but it has to go to the airport, it has to go to iDrive, it has to go to Disney, because those are job centers that you can carry 20,000 people to the airport, 70, 80,000 people to iDrive. I don't know what the number would be for Disney, and that would be in conjunction. We're trying to work with Brightline to extend to Tampa and share the rails, and Universal has already created a CDD that is going to help fund the cost and will take on the operational overruns and backstop the east-west portion of that, which will help with the north-south portion of that. But that's all to come.
You and I are in total agreement. I don't disagree with that. But we've been talking about the airport connection for a long time.
Yes, we have.
And I just want to hope we can go from what our desires are to coming up with an action plan. How can we make that happen? We've been talking about connecting to the airport for a while. And if it's just a money issue, then let's figure out how to find the money.
Well, one of my goals is sometime in the next 3 years and 10 months is to break ground on that.
Okay, I look forward to that. Well, maybe I won't be here for that, but no, I do appreciate that. All right, I'll save the rest for later because we've got a big agenda, but thank you, Mayor, very much.
Commissioner Ortiz?
You guys didn't talk about the bus rapid transit in Cimarron. That's going to connect Sunrail from the airport to Altamont and downtown, and that's a big piece of that too. So It's not a train, but it's a bus rapid transit. Anyhow, going into business in our district once again. It's great to see you, Mayor Frederick. Great leadership all those years, and you still exert a lot of that, so it's good to have you in the house. February 21st, the Florida Department of Transportation teamed up with a neighborhood working group formed by residents of the Conway area and the City of Orlando for a final FDOT public information meeting regarding Conway Road improvements. Special thanks to the neighborhood working group led by Fabian Hull for their dedication and the incredible FDOT team for their unwavering support. Project would not exist without Mr. Jad Atkins, Mr. Ed Castori, Mr. Todd Alexander, Mr. Isaac Naziru, Mr. Brian Brentley, and Ms. Liz Bartell. Lastly, a big shout out to our city's transportation team. Did a great job, and our incredible District 2 community for their invaluable contributions. This project truly exemplifies the power of government and community relations and collaboration. Residents were encouraged to ask questions that might clarify safety concerns of confusion. The team provided maps and a full presentation to explain every step of the way. We have been working on this project for a long time, and I'm proud to see all the progress. Thank you to everyone involved in this process, and for prioritizing our community's well-being. On February 20th, I attended the Black History Month, and where's Marcia? Marcia. Anyhow, Marcia, thank you for your great job, and the Office of Multicultural Affairs for your hard work and dedication to organizing such a celebrated event. That was awesome. On the 27th, my office and I attended the 38th Annual Crime Prevention Ceremony. I wanted to congratulate Ashbury Park Homeowners Association from District 4 for winning Neighborhood Watch Group of the Year, as well as our Block Captains of the Year, including District 2, Ms. Iris Rodriguez of Englewood. On the 27th, I hosted our first Neighborhood Leaders Council of 2024. For those of you that don't know what that may be, is all the community leaders and all the captains from Neighborhood Watch. We come together once a month and we discuss all the items, kind of to exercise that broken window theory. And we try to be proactive on all the things that happen in our community so we can excel, not catch up. So I want to thank all of them. We had Ms. Thea Walker, Permitting Division Manager, who informed our leaders on navigating the city permit system. District 2 Liaison Corporal Keith Hernandez also delved into community safety and the innovative OPD Connect program. Looking forward to our upcoming discussions of future meetings. On the 29th, I attended Gateway District Arts After Dark, Arts After Dark event, golly, which is becoming an iconic event with the goal of supporting local artists and craftsmen. We do it every month, so the next event is going to be on March 28th. It really becomes a party of the community, and there's singing, there's all kinds of things, arts and craft, of course. And this next one, we're going to have a special singer, so that to be announced soon. March 5th, my office and I hosted the first session of the spring's 12 Weeks Government Academy. It's not just the beginning of a new semester, it's also a celebration of the Academy's remarkable 10 years milestone, witnessing its growth since 2014. And the increasing interest in government involvement is truly heartening. I want to extend a big thanks to everyone who participated. Tomorrow evening, we have Ms. Lynn Tipton, which is the director of the Florida League of Cities University. She's going to be teaching our session on state government. I also want to thank my office team, Megan Shaver, Keith Hernandez, and Alejandro Rodriguez. And with that, Mayor, I move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Burns. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so the motion carries. Okay, if there's no objection, I'm going to recess the City Council meeting. I'm going to convene the CRA meeting. David, and if you're prepared, I'm going to reorder this and go immediately to item number 7 and hear that first, since I think there are a few people here to have an interest in that one.
Casey, if you could just pull up the presentation, we're going to switch up the order.
You know, let's take 30 seconds to let those that are here, we're here just for the consent agenda, find their way out. All right, David, item number 7 first, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. So item 7, this is the item that was discussed just a little bit in several opening comments. It's an opportunity for the CRA to acquire 4 different sites, catalytic sites, throughout the core of our downtown. And if, yep, you gotta cue it up, 1 second. Yep, thank you. So before you, as you see where those locations are, the first of which, 1 North Orange, right on the corner of Central and Orange Avenue, in the heart of downtown Orlando, one would argue Main and Main. Another 30 South Orange, postage stamp size of a property right on the corner of Pine Street and Orange Avenue. And then two true once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to add space to Lake Eola right at 205 and 215 East Central. I want to walk through just a little bit of context as to the CRA and some Florida statutes and how those authorize us and encourage us to make things happen just like we're talking about today. Florida statute section 1363.370 authorizes the CRA to acquire real property within the area to hold, improve, clear, or prepare for redevelopment. Our CRA plan strategically discusses a comprehensive plan which includes revitalization, including expanding and connecting broad-range public and open spaces, in addition to create additional open space, include pocket parks, and look at the needs of a growing population. You'll see some other things mentioned as well as preserving historic buildings and historic structures and how important that is for our neighborhoods, adding and encouraging mixed-use development as well as mixed-use development, and embracing the importance of Lake Eola and the gateway component that it should have into the core of our city. So I want to talk just briefly about each one of these sites to give you context and then ultimately the cost and the contracts that you're voting on today. 1 North Orange, as I mentioned, if you can't place it in your head, here's some images of the site. It's one of, it was referred to as one of the 3 original skyscrapers in Orlando. You see that purview looking down Central, looking east, Orange Avenue going north and south. It has been vacant for more than 15 years, completely unactivated in the core of our city, and been an eyesore and truly looking to get back and activated. Though today you're voting on the contracts, I wanted to provide some context as to what this could be, should we be able to control it and ultimately, hopefully, release an RFP for redevelopment of the site. Some options are, it's a 10-story building. So think of a destination restaurant potentially anchoring the ground floor of that any of us would be happy and excited to bring our significant others or our friends and family members. And then you hear a lot about office to residential conversions in a lot of major cities, and think about how that may be able to be converted to an attainable housing unit in the core of our city. Obviously, it was office space in its original form and could also be activated as that. Here again, just some conceptual renderings at what that may lay out as. When you walk into this ground floor space, you can think of those 2-story historic bank buildings which have large mezzanines and overlooks into them. You see a lot in the movies. Here are some concepts as to what that might, how that might come to reality. The building has a basement as well, and looking at that, how that might be able to be utilized for amenities associated with potential residential. And then as you go up above that second floor, as I mentioned, we looked at just some layouts. This does not look at mechanical and electrical and plumbing. This looks at the life safety features, stairwells and elevators as to how a residential rebuild may look. This first one here showcases more of a traditional outline with studios, 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. We hear a lot more about micro-housing. This floor plan demonstrates how that would be achievable. None of these are mutually specific to one another. Obviously, something completely different could be done, or these could be merged together. Additionally, the building has no parking. I think that's one of the large reasons why it hasn't been activated for a number of years. This layout before you was proposed as looking at how you can get a valet location or a drop-off location associated with that building, whether it be for a restaurant or active use on the ground floor, or whatever the upper floors may be, whether it be that attainable housing or office space. And then you look at this picture, and to me it's resounding. You actually might think you're looking at 1 North Orange, but you're not. You're actually looking at the Metcalf building. That's on the corners of Orange and Pine. This building was actually built by the same builder that built this property, just about a year off. And I've included this so you can see what the interior of an office building could also potentially look like if that was reutilized and reactivated appropriately. Commissioner Hill, you mentioned that you hear about this in a number of different conferences, and I wanted to just share some context as other cities who are also kind of taking steps down this realm of purchasing properties in their core and redeveloping them, some for the very same context that we're talking about today. The first building on your left is in Atlanta. The city of Atlanta purchased this last year for about $39 million, and they plan to convert it into mixed-income, mixed-use housing. The one in the middle is in Baltimore, a 21-story historic building that was just released for RFP in order to see how that can be reutilized. On the right, you see Indianapolis purchasing a historic structure and looking to activate that as primarily affordable housing. And then some closer to home, you see here the CRA in Miami purchasing, the Omni CRA purchasing this building here, former bank building, and looking to activate that. And then just down the street, so to speak, in Lakeland, purchased this some years ago, a old hotel, and converted it into apartments. So the next site I'll talk about briefly is the southwest corner of Lake Eola. So if you were standing there today, you'd see two buildings. You'd see City Center there on your left is about a 6-story building. And then you see a truly beautiful House Building 215 that is kind of smack center in this image. The next image I'll show you is to denote the opportunity as to what this could unlock. We've talked about adding that amazing gateway opportunity into the core of downtown, and this acquisition literally paves the way for that to become a reality. You see this image, which is just for conceptual purposes, but is meant to focus you in on our iconic fountain, draw you into the space, and you see the opportunities that it creates for the community to spend time in shaded structures, also with low-impact development, and enjoying our city's signature park. And then the final site, 30 South Orange, corner of Orange and Pine. If you were walking up the street today, you'd see something that looks similar to this. With your support, we were successful in leasing that property several months ago to provide some minimal activation. And when you look at this site, as I mentioned before, I called it a postage stamp of a site because it is small. But when you look around at a variety of other cities, you find ways and examples that small sites can actually play very impactful roles when they're placed and designed appropriately. So I wanted to lay out just a couple options. You see 30 South Orange here on the left at 0.1 acres. Then you see Paley Park in Manhattan, about the exact same size, Greenacre Park in Manhattan, just a tad bit bigger, and then Waterfall Garden Park. But when you look at these sites, and here's some examples of what you would see if you went to these or if you've already visited them. Greenacre Park in Manhattan, you see the activity there, that lower image that you see, that water feature in the back, which provides that white noise to kind of drown out a little bit of that activity in the city, so you can stop, maybe take a phone call, have a chat with a friend, or enjoy a peaceful lunch, or even work outside, as so many people like to do. Albee Square, you see that activation associated there in Brooklyn. Waterfall Garden Park, again, showcasing those water features. And then the last one on the right, probably my favorite, Paley Park in Manhattan, which I perused through just while visiting Manhattan almost 10 years ago. And it was truly amazing to see how that could play a vision at potentially what could be here in downtown Orlando. So how that may lay out in downtown could be something like this. Again, these are just conceptual items as to how this site could potentially be reutilized and activated. You see that concept of that water feature anchoring in the back, again, to drown out that noise, bring you into the site. A shade structure that provides shade during the day, and then while you flip that to really an iconic light feature, an artistic piece at night. A way for our city to come together, spend some time, whether it just be unplanned or maybe even planned. Ways for people to activate a food truck and come alongside, stop, have a bite to eat from one of the amazing local food entrepreneurs that we have in our community. So finally, what you're voting on today is a 4-property package. There's 3 purchase contracts that are all required to be closed simultaneously. It is a package deal, so to speak. The purchase price for all of these projects in total is $19,350,200. I denoted under each associated with that on the slide before you what those individual purchase prices are. As I mentioned, it is a package deal, and they are required to be closed together. There's a $150,000 security deposit that would be obligated to be placed should we be able to move forward. $75,000 of that is refundable should we not move forward with the closing. We have 60 days to do any additional due diligence work that we deem appropriate on the sites to make sure that they are appropriate and sufficient for our utilization. And then the closing would take place anywhere from 90 to 360 days. Mayor, if it's okay with you, before I answer any questions, as you pointed out, there are several members of the community that came today, were original members of the Orlando Land Trust, and kind of helped us start this venture and contributed over $1.3 million to this, along with the CRA, to kind of start that first purchase at 1 North Roslyn. So first up, I'd like to call on Ted Haddock, who is the president of the Orlando Land Trust.
Welcome, Ted.
Thank you. Well, my name is Ted Haddock, president of the Edward E. Haddock Jr. Family Foundation and co-founder and president of the Orlando Land Trust. Our business address is 15 North Eula Drive, Orlando, and my family and I live in College Park, sitting behind me. So Mayor Dyer, commissioners, and David, thank you for allowing me a few moments to address the council. So today I'm speaking on behalf of Orlando Land Trust, including 2 former mayors of Orlando who serve as trustees, and a lot of supporters who you see in the chambers here today. If it's okay, could I ask anyone who's here in support to stand so we can get a visual?
Sure.
Great. Thanks, everybody. It's a lot of folks. Thank you for coming out today. We're here to offer our strong support of the CRA's recommendation to purchase the 4 parcels as a package deal with the purpose of activating key locations in downtown Orlando. As you know, 2 of the parcels located on East Central are contiguous with Lake Eola Park and connect with the Pocket Park on the corner of Roslyn and Central, which Orlando Land Trust purchased and donated to the city of Orlando as green space. Orlando Land Trust's vision, inspired in part by Project DTO, has been that the property we purchased and donated to the city would one day serve as the primary gateway from downtown Orlando into Lake Eola Park. Today's proposed acquisition presents itself as an extremely unique opportunity to realize this vision for the highly desirable Western Gateway. The purchase would also expand one of the most highly utilized parks in the nation, another rare opportunity in a land-constrained location. As more people move into downtown Orlando to live, work, and play, the need for green space becomes all the more compelling. We simply can't afford to forego this opportunity for the public good and the boost of revitalization it will provide the city we all love. The alternative is 4 chronically dilapidated parcels in the downtown core and a lost opportunity that may never come again. Orlando Land Trust is grateful for the productive public-private relationship we've shared with the city and for the commissioner's leadership. I would also like to acknowledge Commissioner Hill, as you did earlier, our dear friend Thomas Chapman, who worked so hard for many years to make this very opportunity possible. So thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and David, for your time and consideration and support of this acquisition.
And then he needs no introduction, but former Mayor Bill Frederick.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mayor. Nice time.
What a nostalgic moment for me. It's been more than 50 years since I was elected to the office of mayor, and I want to say that the city is in excellent hands today, that I don't think we've ever had a group that I could admire and respect more than Mayor Dyer and each of you commissioners. Thank you for your service, and thank you for allowing me to speak briefly today in support of this acquisition. Joanne and I had the pleasure of supporting the acquisition of the 7-Eleven, and if we are successful in getting your support for these other parcels, we will do likewise in that, and I would be happy to try and use what remaining vigor I have to find the necessary support for whatever the city's plan would be for that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I want to say that every living mayor is strongly in support of this purchase, and it won't come again. So I just want to say thank you for your consideration of this. If you see fit to support it, then we will be there to make sure that your money is well spent and that you get a result that you're happy with. Again, I thank you for your service. I thank you for your consideration of this, and it is a real pleasure to be with you after these many years. Thank you so much. Who's next? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. And then finally, I won't dare say it, but you said Thomas said it. Eugene Yusefchik and Lynn Long, the little old ladies who started this initiative with so much vigor.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is Eugene Yusefchik, and I live at 2420 Norfolk Road, Orlando, Florida. I'm speaking on behalf of the Orlando Land Trust and as a resident of Orlando. In 2015, Lynn Long and I discovered the Downtown Orlando Outlook, and we were excited at that time that city leaders envisioned that this southwest corner of the park could ultimately become the gateway. In 2019, Lynn Long, Ted Haddock, and I formed the Orlando Land Trust to preserve green space around the park. Lynn and I became known as the two little old ladies on a mission to protect the park. With the assistance of the Trust for Public Land, we learned that Lake Eola Park has more visitors per square acre than San Antonio Riverwalk and the National Mall in Washington, D.C. More than 2 million visitors come to the park each year. I'm in favor of the CRA's proposal to the purchase of the 4 properties, which will provide additional green space for Lake Eola Park, 2 of which. 2 of my friends and colleagues of the Orlando Land Trust were unable to be here today to address the City Council. They asked that I present their comments in support of the project. Charlie and Sandra Gray, who reside at 300 East Church Street, Orlando, Florida. Sandra and Charlie are downtown residents. Charlie is a founder of Gray Robinson and a board member of the Orlando Land Trust. Charlie said, Lake Eola is the center and heartbeat of our city beautiful. Today, the city of Orlando has the opportunity to acquire 4 properties. 2 are located on Lake Eola Park in downtown Orlando, and this will enhance beautiful Lake Eola. Sandra and I support the city pursuing this opportunity. Also, former Mayor of Orlando, Glenda Hood, 1210 Lancaster Drive, Orlando, Florida. I enthusiastically support the city's proposal to acquire the 4 downtown properties. This is a timely investment opportunity to further Orlando's vision for a thriving downtown neighborhood and world-class city. Re-energizing these properties will promote creative placemaking at its best by amplifying community assets, fostering a sense of pride in our city's history and aspirations, and making spaces where residents and visitors want to experience our downtown. Thanks to our city leaders for realizing the importance of ensuring that we have active and great environments for all to enjoy and are worthy of treasured memories. Glenda Hood, former Mayor of Orlando, Orlando Land Trust Board member. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I will now turn it over to the other little old lady.
And I definitely qualify. Good afternoon, Mayor Dyer and Commissioners, and also David. My name is Lynn Long, and I live at 100 South Eola Drive, Orlando 32801. I'm excited to appear before you today to express my support for the CRA proposal of the acquisition of 4 parcels of downtown properties. I'm a native Orlandoan, a resident of downtown Orlando, and I am part of a family-owned business that is located within the boundary of the downtown district. Our business will celebrate its 100th anniversary early next year. Interestingly, one of the properties in the assemblage parcels that is before you today celebrates its centennial this year, 1 North Orange. Sadly, this historic building in the heart of downtown Orlando has been sitting vacant for more than 15 years. It is my hope that by acquiring this property, the CRA and the City of Orlando can restore it to its former glory and again be a beautiful historic property downtown. I'm equally enthusiastic about the acquisition of the 2 parcels on the shores of Lake Eola. As a co-founder of the Orlando Land Trust and trustee, I'm committed to help preserve and expand green space in our community. I've been visiting Lake Eola for 75 years. I was present for the dedication of the iconic Linton B. Allen Fountain in 1957. Lake Eola has undergone many changes through the years, but it remains the central core of downtown and a place of respite and shared activities for families and visitors. It's clear to me that by creating a gateway into Lake Eola Park and initiating the restoration of our historical building on Orange Avenue, we have an opportunity to add value and character to our downtown district and contribute to the revitalization of downtown. This is an opportunity that will not come our way again. I am asking you to accept this proposal by the CRA and vote yes for the future of downtown and for our entire community. No matter how large Orlando becomes, and it's getting quite large, we will continue to enjoy our oasis of history, culture, and green space. I am not alone as a resident of downtown. I have in my hand over 200 letters from supporting members of our community, which I will submit to you. At least 1/3 of these are from downtown residents who live and work downtown. Thank you very much for your consideration and for the important work that you do for our community.
Thank you.
So Mayor, Commissioners, if approved, this item would be funded out of currently budget funds out of the CRA line items that are currently aside. There would be no additional loans or debt needed for this acquisition, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Sheehan.
And David, I would be remiss not to thank your staff and everybody at the DDB CRA. And, you know, these are amazing opportunities that we have. And, you know, sometimes, you know, this was supposed to be a high-rise. It was very controversial. It would have impacted the park in a very negative way. And the fact that we're here today, you know, making this decision, I'm hoping the commissioners will support this because it really is iconic for Lake Eola. Lake Eola has had some difficulties over the years. You know, Mayor Frederick, you were in part of that original revitalization, and it kind of went down a little bit, and then I got in there and we had to kind of clean it up again. And I think it's important, and I want to thank the CRA especially. You all have finally adopted Lake Eola, so to speak, and you really have put your money where your mouth is and have really supported a lot of the initiatives that have really made it a beautiful, wonderful gathering place, and I just want to thank you for that.
Is that a motion, Commissioner?
And that would be a motion to approve this.
Noted.
Is there a second?
Yeah, and I'll second. But I want to think about the total package of DTO and how we went out to the community of DTO and asked what did they want to see. And they did want to see more green space in downtown. They did want to see some type of mixed income housing component along with office and retail space. And I'll say something like they said, yesterday prices ain't today's prices, and today's prices won't be the future prices. So saying that, I think this is a very good investment when we start talking about the safest thing is real estate. And for the CRA to invest in this historic, iconic component. And I love what one of I think Lynn stated it, about bringing it back to its pristine value. And so when we start talking about preservation, city controlling this component, we dictate what goes there and what type of growth happens. And so I'm very supportive for this, and hopefully we can do a little bit more in our downtown with purchasing some more property and having that downtown for all. And I know not long ago, this day I stated that this is what we was looking for in downtown. More green space, more places to dine, more places that you can bring family and your grandchildren versus more bars. So we're gonna really talk the talk. We have to invest in it. And this is leading us in that way. And that's all I have, Mayor. I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And David, I got a few questions, but before I do, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming, and the Mayor and Mr. Haddock for your comments. Because look, we do have disagreements up here, but I can tell you that we all seem to get along quite well, and we have honest discourse. So we're going to have a little more here today. But David has heard these questions, but I want to ask him a few questions because I want to talk to the group here. There are 4 properties involved. 3 of them, which are the lots, I have no issues with. I think we're paying a bit too much, but okay, we sometimes do that. So I have no issues with purchasing the 2 lots on Lake Eola, nor do I have the one that's on Pine Street. The one I have serious reservations about, and I need to get some more answers, is the office building. And David's heard these, but here are some of my concerns which still don't have answers to. This building, among other things, was built in 1924. So we become the new owner through this transaction. Highly likely this building is full of asbestos. Do we have any idea how much asbestos it has?
As of today, Commissioner, we do not. We'll have the inspection period to do that investigation.
Got it. It's also highly likely this building isn't up to code to include fire escapes. Is that fair? That's what I understand. Do you know? Do we know? Is it up to code? And do we know what it would take to get it up to code?
It would depend on our ultimate use. Again, we'll have the time during the investigation period, our inspection period, to determine what use we would want to do, and then ultimately, if those approvals, what that would take to make sure that they were compliant with all codes.
Got it. If we are going to try to do residential, which is a great idea, have we done a mechanical, electrical, plumbing survey to know if it's even possible? Because when you do residential, you've got to put a lot of plumbing in. Bathrooms, faucets, sinks, etc. Can we even do it in this building? Do we have the floor plate? Do we have the ability? Have we looked at that?
So what we've already looked at, Commissioner, as I mentioned, was the life safety components of the floor plate, and would that work in accommodating it? Also, as I mentioned, we have not looked at MEP yet to see if that's feasible. If it does not, and that's possible, then we also have the backdrop of the office space, as I showcased, like the Metcalf building, which would be activating it very similar to the way it was used in the past.
Got it. And then this building's been vacant for 15 years. Do we know of any private developer that's approached the current owner about redoing that?
I do. I know of several that have approached me over the years, trying to have me help them get in contact with him. Also, since the news broke that we were purchasing it, wanting to start conversations as to, hey, can we be included or be included in the participation along the way and participate in any RFPs should they become available. So there has been interest.
Well, and you probably have talked to the same people I have, because I've talked to 2 that had direct conversations with the owner that looked at a lot of different issues and said, thanks, but no thanks. It would cost way too much money to be economically feasible. So let's keep going. If we're going to do residential, where would the residents park?
So we're fortunate in that location, as I mentioned, there's no parking for that building. Actually, if you go back into history, the bank that was there actually relocated to the North Quarter when the city decided to discontinue parking on Orange Avenue. We're fortunate that the city has over 1,000 spaces just a block away that, again, we don't have agreements with today. But if anyone is suited to potentially solve the parking challenge of that building, I would argue that the city's in the best space to be able to solve that for us.
I would hope so, but no guarantees, because the only thing that I've seen is 4 street spots. So if I'm a resident and I come home from Publix with my groceries, I park by the library, I park across from our fire station and carry my groceries for 2 blocks? Probably not right. If I want to have furniture delivered to my apartment, where does my vendor park? Double park? So there's no parking. The street parking will either be blocking Central or blocking Orange. And there's no loading dock. Where's the restaurant? It's a great idea to put a two-story restaurant. I mean, we have that at Cress, and Cress is highly successful. Where are they going to where are the restaurant vendors going to deliver their food? Through the front door? Because there's buildings all around this. This building is locked in by adjacent properties. So how do they get the groceries in, or the food for the restaurant? Those are questions that I don't know that we've really looked at. And you know, it just seems to me that there's a lot of questions, and I do know one thing: the private sector is better at solving these than the government sector. With all due respect, we do a lot of good things, but I think we're asking for trouble by spending half of this purchase price, or almost $10 million, on a building that's sat vacant for 15 years for a reason. Because believe me, the private sector is always looking for opportunities. When they see one, they jump on it. So I would caution our council. I have no issues with the other 3, but I think it feels to me like we have an owner that's trying to leverage the other 3 with these folks who have already put their money up, and I admire you for putting your money up for the first lot. You've got skin in the game. You deserve it. But we're getting used on this building, in my opinion. And so I'm going to ramble a little bit more, Mayor, and I apologize, because it leads to a bigger issue, and that is the CRA. And again, you've heard me say this. The CRA runs for another 16 years. Let me tell you all the different projects I've heard of, not in detail, that the CRA intends to fund. This project, $20 million. The Bob Carr renovation, $30 million. The under-eye canopy, $30 million. The Lake Eola upgrades, I'm not sure what that ticket is. If somebody knows, I'd love to hear, but we've got to allocate for that. Lake Lucerne, we talked about that in DTO 2.0 to help energize DPAC, the Performing Arts Center, because we've got to take good care of that Performing Arts Center. We got a lot invested in that, and we've talked about energizing the Lake Lucerne area. That's going to take money. We've also talked about changing the street directions from one-way to two-way, and increasing our sidewalks. And then this morning we heard about Carver Park with the CRA funding that. So my question, and I've been asking this for a while, from a CRA standpoint, do we have any plan of how we're going to phase these in and or pay for these, whether it's from immediate tax revenue and or bonds, because we got to pay them off in 16 years because the CRA is going to sunset. And so my feeling is, whether it's this project or any of the ones I mentioned, the Bob Carr under-eye, do we have a plan of how we're going to do these? Because I don't think we can do them all. But yet we're kind of dangling them out to get the public excited, but I don't know how we're going to pay for that. And this, I'm only talking about building and or renovating. I'm not talking about operating, maintaining, and the operating expense of people and all those things. So that's my biggest problem, Mayor, is that we keep talking about the CRA, the golden goose, but the CRA is going to run out in 16 years, and I have not seen even a rough one-page idea of where the money's going to come from and how are we going to spend it. So I'm sorry for going on so long, but you've heard these before, but we keep talking about things. But guys, I just think we as a council got to stop and say, are we going to get in the middle of this and realize we're starting these different initiatives and we don't have the money to build them, let alone maintain them. So that's my issue on this one. The part that I get frustrated is the details I got was a week ago. And I know you guys and the staff have been working on this for months, but you're asking me to vote on something I heard about a week ago? And so if it's up to me, fine, let's buy the 3 lots. I'm good with that. But I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the office building until we know a little bit more. Let's bring some developers in who do this day in, day out, not us, and see if this RFP concept has some legs. Maybe it does, I don't know. But I just know there's a lot of obstacles to getting this thing up and running, and I don't think we've done a very good job of looking at those. So, Mayor, that's kind of where I am. Is there any way we can do 3 out of the 4?
Well, you want to let David respond?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure. So to the last question, it is a package purchase, so it is all or nothing to the extent from the seller's perspective. To your questions, Commissioner, the direct answer to your question is, can we pay for all these, or you didn't think that we could? We've been actively monitoring it to the extent that we know. Obviously, when you're talking about any projection of time and any projection of projects, you have to make estimations as to what costs would be and ultimately what our revenues would be. The contacts and the reviews that we've made with the CFO's office, that everything that you mentioned, everything that we do traditionally, and all the projects that are in the CRA plan that are, ultimately on track to being implemented, can be funded by all those projections. You and I both have, I think we have a meeting tomorrow or Wednesday to go over a one-sheeter, so to speak, as you mentioned, to showcase exactly how that lays out.
Commissioner Stewart?
Right. Let me follow along the same thinking, because I think you've raised some good points, and I apologize for us not having this conversation during the consent agenda. Tell us about the due diligence period, length of time, what we're addressing. I feel like Commissioner Gray, I mean, 3 out of the 4 is like, why haven't we already done it? But this other one creates some other issues that we may get $7 or $8 or $9 million into it and then have to put another 10 or 12, $15 million to make it sellable for sometime in the future, and that's an unknown that we don't know. So tell me about what we're going to do in the due diligence period, especially for that building.
Yeah, so specifically, the contracts give us the ability to do any investigations that we see fit. We already discussed looking for asbestos, doing the appropriate environmentals, looking at what that conceptual ultimate use might be, what it could take monetarily to create that to happen. I want to be clear that as today, we don't anticipate taking this task on by ourselves. You see the examples that I referenced in the presentation with other cities, ultimately, specifically the one in Baltimore, putting it back out on the market for an RFP. That's fully what we intend to do. I think, this is just my personal opinion, one of the challenges of why you see the building sitting there for 15 years, quite frankly, is because the private sector hasn't figured out how to reactivate this building yet in a cost-feasible way. And from a contextual standpoint, where the private sector can't deliver, I see that as an appropriate way, an appropriate place for the public sector to bridge that gap. Our CRA plan discusses that. It talks about repositioning assets and making sure they can play active roles in downtown. So I don't want to give allude to the fact that this will be a cost-productive component for the CRA. This is about activating a blighted property in the core of our city that we think is an appropriate course to take to get it reactivated and introduced to the market.
Well, I think the challenge is not so much all of us want that reactivated, and we'll agree with that. The challenge is that this reactivation may be 4 or 5 or 6 times the value of that building in order to save that building. By the time you may have to acquire property adjacent for parking, you may have to, all that becomes a real challenge. And I'm not concerned as much about spending the money as I'm concerned about knowing what the value we're going to do is. Can we put out an RFP essentially during the due diligence period? Can we get firm commitments? One of the challenges I always have is that I don't think the city ought to be in the land development business. Because we control all the angles here, and we want to get that into the private sector as fast as possible. You and I discussed that. That's one of the challenges that we want to do. How do we accomplish that task and get a real good feel during the due diligence period, so that we don't turn around and here 2 years down the road saying, well, the only choice we have now is to spend $25 million because that's the only choice that we have.
So we obviously, as I mentioned, have the 60 days to do any inspections that we want. Is it feasible to release an RFP for development in that time? I don't think that it is, Commissioner. We would have to be comfortable with the state of the investigations that we complete to determine if it was sufficient for us to ultimately take that seat as owner. So that would just be for us to determine during that period.
I'd love to hear more ideas coming from the private sector, because I mean, the Pocket Park and the stuff with Lake Eola, I mean, that's stuff that we ought to do, and I'm sorry we didn't do it, 100 years ago when we could have. But when you look at the One North Orange, there may be another use for that building that's not residential and that's not mixed use. I mean, that gets our money back out of that building somehow. And I want to make sure that we've explored all of that before our closing date, because that's the concern I have.
Absolutely, and we will look into all those components.
Yeah.
The visuals today were to provide conceptual vision as to what it could be, that we have started to think along those lines, but obviously have more time to figure out what the appropriate and right next steps
So
are.
like Commissioner Gray does, we have a very aggressive DTO plan. And I don't want us to be in this position looking at the fact that we can't do Lake Lucerne, or we can't do the eastern portion of Lake Eola because we have to spend the money on this building on One North Orange. And I don't want us to get in that position. That's my concern. Okay. But anyway, outside of that, I thank you for raising those points, Jim. I would agree on that particular
Mayor, if I
property.
could follow up.
Yeah.
Mayor, if I could follow up. Thank you. David, have we talked to the adjacent property owners?
To the adjacent property owners?
Because the buildings around it are 1- and 2-story. I mean, maybe we're better off buying those, and then we have some room for some on-site parking and loading docks and get people off Central or Orange. But, I mean, I don't know 90 days gives you that much time to do it. But those are some thoughts we could discuss, and I just wish we would talk about this before we get to this stage, because now we got everybody excited about buying property, as they should be, but half of the purchase price is a building that has questions. That's all. Thank you.
Further questions, and I'll close, David. So my thoughts on this, this is an owner that sat on this property for how many years he owned it?
Over a decade.
Over a decade. Made no improvements on any of the properties that he's owned. It's a package deal. We're either going to get all 4 of them or we're going to get none of them. And it's an opportunity to get 3 that we really need and 1 that's been fallow for 15 years and will be fallow for another 15 years. I think our staff's as good as anybody in terms of innovative thinking and figuring out ways to go about this. I mean, we could discount the property down to some number that makes it more viable for somebody to purchase, discount the purchase price and make it more viable for somebody in the or in the private sector to redevelop it. But I think we can figure out a way to activate that building that's not going to bankrupt the CRA. And if it is going to bankrupt the CRA, we won't do it, and we aren't any worse off than we were before, except for the $9 million. Right, we own it.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could ask David, I know you said in here it's a historic designation. Is that city, state, federal? What's the historic designation, and does that limit the ability to change the building anyway?
It does have the historic designation. I believe that it's the highest level of federal designation. I imagine it requires you to preserve some components of that building. We've already been working with the historic preservation officer that looks at incentives that are also allowed in order of doing that. Most of those are contextually on the exterior realm and preserving the exterior of the building.
This could be blasphemy. Forgive me. Do we have the ability to tear it down?
I don't know that I can opine on that today.
I'm asking, just a question, just a question, just a question, sir.
There are ways.
I'll rest my case. See, I told you we get along here. We get along. We disagree, but we get along.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye. How about that? Huh?
Those opposed, then so passes unanimously.
Is that
Okay, we'd like to all go out and celebrate with you guys, but it turns out we have quite a bit more business to do.
Thank you, Mayor.
So we'll stand in about a 1-minute recess.
I'll give him the clip. Thank you. Mayor.
Congratulations. Thank you. Big step.
Absolutely. Appreciate you being here.
It's always a journey, isn't it? This has been one, but Sheila.
I was here.
Hey, Jim Gray.
Jim.
You forget my first act of becoming mayor was to demolish.
I don't even.
Just tore it
I didn't
off.
forget.
Blame it on me now. Just blow it up.
There's got to be some training exercise from. There's got to be some training exercise. Make it into our new training.
Lethal weapon profile.
These are the 3 on the annexation.
Oh, we have 3.
Are y'all building low-income houses?
It's still to be ultimately determined, but attainable is the term.
So when would that?
Okay.
It would be after, we have to purchase it first, and then we put out an RFQ for it
So
to be
what
done.
about that building? Since there's no parking, and since most, like, for instance, on
Okay.
that, they don't drive, why can't you turn that into housing
a
for
good
our
thought.
veterans? And I keep saying on the street, I was homeless, I lived at the shelter. Well, if it's no parking there, and if it's not, because people are not gonna wanna pay for housing.
Okay, we'll come back to order.
So why can't we make it for people, I mean, we have housing crisis, we could do that.
Sure, yeah, it's a good thought.
I mean, because my taxes have to pay for it. and I
David,
wanna
let's
pay
revert
for
back
it.
to number 1.
No problem. Items 1 and 2, those are minutes, Mayor. Did you want to handle those? First one
Yeah, I'll
is
handle
minutes from...
those. Okay. Number 1's meeting minutes of the CRA from February 5th. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2's advisory board minutes from January 24th.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 3.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 3, this is Amendment 3 to the amended and restated open space agreement. So this was is a companion item to B8 that was on the consent agenda. It is the agreement by which the CRA contributes funding towards city initiatives involving open space, this particularly for the 150 rideshare and short-term parking spaces under I-4. Total investment on behalf of the CRA is not to exceed $850,000.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 4.
Item 4, this is CRA Budget Amendment 1 and Budget Resolution. So the CRA was fortunate to receive an additional $4.5 million in revenue this year. As appropriate, we have to invest that or document that money in various project accounts. The proposal before you puts $1 million in our business retention line item, $1 million in DTO implementation, $1 million in venues and open spaces, $1.25 in real estate, and $250,000 in transportation.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion. Commissioner Ortiz.
Mayor, I just want, can I hear? There you go. Mayor, I just want to suggest that some of that money, we have that issue with downtown with the clubs paying the amount of money that they're paying. Is the cost to supply for the police officer would be less than $3 million. The CRA is composed of the property taxes that come from those clubs through the years from the property owners. And I think that we could take a little bit of time, maybe a year or 2, where we can give them a chance, where we can pay for money from the CRA and give them a chance to come up with a surcharge. We can take it to a legislature. There's plenty of precedents where there's been cities where they've been able to set a surcharge for alcohol for the downtown areas, and which we're investigating right now some of those cities in order to get a copy of their plan, take it to Tallahassee, so with that money they can pay for the law enforcement officers, and we can return the rest of it to the CRA.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, Mayor, I was going to echo what Commissioner Ortiz stated, to see if there's some type of remedy for service charge to help them with
Let's do this. We've got a lot on this agenda to go. David, if we defer this, does it hurt you in any way?
Nope, we can defer.
Okay, let's defer this item. We'll have the discussion about whether we want to siphon off some of that money for that
Thank you,
reason
Mayor.
or not, and we'll just skip that for the day.
Thank you, sir.
Is
Thank
that
you.
agreeable with everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, number 5.
So 5, this is a DTO retail program funding agreement, specifically for Sunday Friend LLC, that's doing business as It Girl Fit. They are moving into the Radius building, which is on the north side of Lake Eola, right where you see that bend in Roslyn. So they signed a 3-year lease and are looking to take occupancy there about for 1,100 square foot space. Their investment in their build-out is about $260,000. It's somewhat of a CrossFit type environment, but catered towards women. So we're excited to hopefully welcome them into the CRA. They qualify for the minimums, or the minimums out of that program, which are the $75,000 in tenant build-out assistance, and then $25,000 in first year's rental abatement, for a total investment from the CRA at $100,000.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 6, David.
Number 6, so the final item today is a MEBA funding agreement for a new business in our Paramore neighborhood. So MEBA is our Minority Entrepreneurs and Women Business Assistance Program that targets that's targeted on the Paramore community. This is a barbershop that's locating right on Paramore Avenue. They have 12 years of experience. The 2 gentlemen that operate it, Virgil Braxton and Jerome Hill, are looking to go off on their own and ultimately hopefully be successful in their American dream. They're signing a 3-year lease and have went to the Amoeba Advisory Board for assistance. They have qualified for $28,239.22, which is spread out over costs associated with rent abatement, capital equipment expenses, expansion costs, and marketing assistance.
So moved, in no relation.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Stewart. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, so we've deferred one item. Is there any other business coming before us?
That is all, Mayor.
Then if there's no objection, we will adjourn the CRA and we will reconvene the city council meeting. Okay, Commissioners, first item of business is hearings. And it is a rescission order on the Orlando Jetport Center development. We have 2 other items that are on hearings ordinances, second reading, number 1 and 2. The first item needs to be heard before this item. We need to annex property before we rescind the development of regional DRI for the Jetport. So what I'd like to do is simply skip that one and hear it between numbers 1 and 2 under hearings ordinances second reading, and that'll bring us to hearings ordinances on first read. Everybody good with that and know what we're doing? Okay. Hearings ordinances first read number 1, Madam Clerk. Did you follow that, Madam Clerk? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Ordinance number 2024-13, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, vacating, closing, and abandoning a portion of Telocas Avenue generally located east of Interstate 4, south of West Cayley Street, and west of South Division Avenue, as described in the Modulin International Trucking Center plat, as recorded in Plat Book 95, page 28 of the Public Records of Orange County, Florida, and comprised of 0.33 acres of land, more or less, providing for conditions of abandonment, providing for the execution of affecting documents, severability, correction of scrivener's error, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Madam Clerk, do you have any cards?
No speakers, Mayor.
Public comment, okay. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So the motion carries. Okay, number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2024-14, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located on the north and south sides of State Road 528 at the Innovation Way Sunbridge Interchange and comprised of approximately 6,273 acres of land, providing findings, amendment of the city's boundary description, and for amendment of the city's official maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. This one we're going to have some discussion on. This is the first reading of an ordinance for the first phase of an annexation of property in southeast Orange County. In partnership with Tavistock, we're advancing this annexation to further ensure smart and strategic growth that meets the needs of our community and investments in planned infrastructure and civic amenities and housing and commercial development. So, let me be clear about the property that's under discussion today. It is either already developed or it has development entitlements that were approved by Orange County. So the development of this property is expected and needed, and our partners are committed to upholding the entitlements and agreements that are already in place with Orange County. We won't be changing any of that. It's development that's going to happen on the border of the city of Orlando, and if it's going to be developed in that fashion, it should be in the city of Orlando. We are having unprecedented growth of 1,000 people moving to Central Florida every week. As a city, we know that we must plan for meeting the demands of housing and civic and infrastructure developments. We must ensure smart development that meets our community's needs while driving inevitable growth away from the rural parts of our state and toward existing urban areas. This property is adjacent to other dense developments in southeast Orlando that are in the city. Thanks to our strategic efforts through Greenworks Orlando, we have proven to be the most sustainable city in the southeast United States, and that's why smart and sustainable growth is paramount to our shared priorities with Tavistock, who we have an extremely long relationship with in developing many sustainable developments, and that'll continue over the next several decades. Tavistock has and will continue to invest in the community amenities and infrastructure projects, such as a 28-acre community park, and probably as important to Commissioner Gray as anything, the Sunbridge Parkway that'll run parallel to and alleviate congestion on Narcoossee Road to the west. Tavistock also intends to uphold its environmental commitments with the county, which includes preserving almost 1,700 acres of conservation lands, including wetlands and adjoining uplands. Again, the annexation into the city doesn't change any of the development profile whatsoever in the planned property. The property is already approved and is expected and needed to meet the growth in the region. It'll simply be developed in the city and become part of the city. I would like to call on Elizabeth, our Planning Division Manager, to give an overview of this annexation. Elizabeth Dang.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name's Elizabeth Dang. I'm the City Planning Division Manager. I'm here today to talk about a proposed southeast annexation. The city, in partnership with Tavistock, is advancing an annexation in 2 phases of property in southeast Orange County. It's on the north and south sides of the beach line and the Innovation Way interchange, with portions extending south to the Osceola County boundary. The total acreage of what you see on the screen right now is approximately 11,688 acres. So today I will tell you a little bit about the process for annexation, the character of the properties being annexed, how the city intends to provide services, and how the city intends to review future development. So first up, the process. State statutes have a number of different avenues for annexing property, including a city-initiated annexation, a voluntary or property owner-initiated annexation, as well as annexation of enclaves via resolution with the associated county. So this project will be a mix of city-initiated and owner-initiated annexations. So for the city-initiated annexation area is shown in your screen in pink. It's approximately 6,273 acres. This entire boundary is currently inside Orange County's urban services area. The annexation will not include any changes to the entitlements or associated commitments to the environmental land stewardship program. The property is generally located north and south of State Road 528 at the Innovation Way and Sunbridge area interchange. This area is being considered for city-initiated annexation because there are a mix of different property owners, and it's the most efficient approach to ensuring a logical annexation boundary. So the state statutes include criteria for city-initiated annexation. One of them is that land must be developed for urban purposes, or if vacant, it must lie between the municipal boundary and an area developed for urban purposes. So the Stanton Energy Plant, as well as the developed properties in the ICP plan development, meet that definition of urban services or urban purposes, as well as there are some vacant properties located between the city boundary and those areas. The second criteria is that the annexation area must be contiguous and reasonably compact, and that's demonstrated on the map. And further, the city must obtain permission from at least 50% of the parcels as well as 50% of the acreage. And we exceed both of those requirements with our necessary forms on file. Whoops. So next, the city must transmit a feasibility study to the county at least 15 days in advance of commencing annexation procedures. So today is our commencing day for annexation procedures, and the feasibility study was delivered on February 23rd, which is 17 days in advance. So this feasibility study includes maps showing proposed boundaries, future land use designations, and water and sewer lines. It also outlines the city's plans for providing municipal services, which I'll discuss in more detail in a minute. So phase 2 of our annexation will be voluntary or owner-initiated. This is approximately 5,400 acres. Sunbridge Land Reserve and their entities own the majority of the properties in this area. Again, for this phase 2, there are no changes proposed to entitlements or the commitments to the Environmental Land Stewardship Program. Also, for today's agenda, there are no action items on this particular phase, but we wanted to provide the entire study area as an overview for context. So owner-initiated annexations are not required to meet the statutory definition of urban purposes. However, they must be contiguous, reasonably compact, and not create an enclave. A feasibility study is not required, and all property owners must petition for annexation. And we expect an application here toward the end of the month to ensure that these criteria are met. When we look at the timeline, as I mentioned, the feasibility study was delivered on February 23rd, with written notices sent to property owners on February 29th. The first reading of the annexation ordinance is today. The second reading is currently scheduled for April 1st, as well as consideration of an annexation and development agreement with an effective date on the same day. The owner-initiated annexation will follow shortly thereafter, with a submittal by the end of the month for the annexation application. A petition for voluntary annexation will go on the council agenda at the April 22nd meeting, along with a first reading that same date, with a second reading scheduled for May 13th. So I'm going to walk through the 4 different areas being proposed for annexation. The first one is familiar to many of us. This is the Stanton Energy Plant. It's 3,228 acres, and this is OUC's primary energy plant. A lot of people thought it was in the city already, and it's not, but this does allow one of the city's major utilities to be located within city limits. The second set of properties are all located in the International Corporate Park Plan Development. It's approximately 368 acres. This PD allows a mix of industrial, distribution, warehouse, and office space up to 3 million square feet. There are existing developments consisting of office, warehouse, and manufacturing. The property will retain its currently issued Orange County development entitlements after annexation into the city. The third property in the annexation study area is the Sunbridge PD. This is approximately 4,800 acres. Tavistock is the developer of record for Sunbridge, and the land is owned by Suburban Land Reserve. This property will also retain the currently issued Orange County development entitlements and the commitment to the Environmental Land Stewardship Program after annexation. The county has approved the following development program of 7,370 residential units, about 5.5 million square feet of office, 2.9 million square feet of industrial, 880,000 square feet of retail, 490 hotel rooms, and 104 acres of civic uses. The final piece of our study area here is called the Camino property. It's about 3,200 acres. It is currently designated in Orange County for rural development as 1 unit per 10 acres. The reason for annexation here is to facilitate development of Sunbridge Parkway, which will connect from the north all the way south to Osceola County. So there are no immediate development plans for this site, and there are existing agreements with some neighboring property owners associations. Those will remain in place and be honored in the city. In terms of the city's plans to provide services for utilities, potable water and wastewater are both subject to what we call service territory agreements, which means that the service provider does not change upon annexation. So for example, OUC serves some property that's outside the city limits, whereas Orange County Utilities serve some property that's inside the city limits. So in this case, these are in the Orange County service territory areas, so they will remain served by Orange County. The city will provide solid waste service as well as stormwater service, and development will be subject to the city's stormwater utility fee. For emergency services, Orange County currently has 2 stations that are approximately 8 to 10 miles away. The city stations are similarly 8 to 9 miles away, but that will decrease over time. The city has a fully funded project to construct a new fire station on Dowden Road in Story Park, and once that's complete and the associated road connections are complete, that will be about 4 miles away. Furthermore, on an interim basis, the city will be providing temporary fire service for Stanton Energy Plant, and in the longer term, there is a reserved fire station site within the PD in Sunbridge. Police service is currently provided from District K7 and the Lake Nona substation, which is approximately 9 miles away. That will remain in the shorter term, and in the longer term, service will be evaluated if demand changes. For parks, the developer will convey a 28-acre community park site to the city. Additional neighborhood parks will be included within the residential subdivisions, and this is all consistent with the Orange County PD and their approvals. These park locations will meet the city requirements as well. Regarding schools, there are no additional residential units proposed at this time, and school reviews are all done by Orange County Public Schools, whether a property is in a municipality or an unincorporated Orange County. The requirements are the same. For this particular site, there is an adequate public facilities agreement that mentions the requirement for school sites, and although that agreement itself terminates upon annexation, the Sunbridge PD, which shows those sites, will remain in place. Like many other properties, the site had a capacity enhancement agreement approved with the PD from 2016. Those agreements carry over with the land. It does not change upon annexation. I will note here that the applicant and OCPS have some disagreement on how to interpret the requirements of that capacity enhancement agreement. That's going to be something that needs to be resolved with or without the annexation of the property. So the city will work with the applicant and OCPS to ensure that school requirements are met prior to construction of residential units. Next up is transportation. There is a robust road network that was approved by Orange County and the Sunbridge and ICP PDs. Those will be built upon annexation. Dowden Road will extend east of the city boundary to connect to Sunbridge Parkway, and then Sunbridge Parkway itself will be constructed and extend south from Dowden Road to Osceola County. This is an important goal for the city because we all know that Narcoossee Road can be busy at times, and this is an excellent alternative north-south corridor for the larger area. In addition, neighborhoods will have an interconnected local street network with trails to encourage pedestrian and bicycle access. Regarding environmental requirements, there are no changes to the environmental standards of the PD. All areas that are currently reserved for open space in both PDs will remain. The city and the developer will work together to implement the environmental land stewardship program once annexed into the city. And that encompasses nearly 1,700 acres of conservation area, including wetlands and adjoining uplands. The developer is also working with local universities and environmental organizations to address various environmental topics, and the city sees opportunities to create new partnerships with our Green Work program and the master developer. So finally, there have been some questions about how the city plans to review and approve future development proposals. First up, on the April 1st council, along with the adoption ordinance, the council will be asked to consider an annexation and development agreement. It covers the following main topics. First is conveyance of a community park site. Second is conveyance of a fire station site. Next is some parameters for construction of Sunbridge Parkway to Osceola County. Next are some requirements to uphold the environmental commitments outlined within the county's environmental land stewardship program, as well as making sure that existing agreements with neighboring property associations will remain in effect. And this is fairly similar to what we've done for other annexed properties. So once again, to repeat, there are no additional entitlements associated with this annexation. The city will hold public hearings to adopt city future land use and zoning designations consistent with the state statutes, but those are going to look very familiar because it's going to be the principles and concepts all coming from the county PD ordinances. So until the city zoning is adopted, property owners may request site plan approvals and building permits from the city, and we will review according to the Orange County zoning standards. We're aware there may be property owners in ICP or Sunbridge who are ready to obtain permits in the short term, and we want to be ready to accommodate those requests. So this is a tentative timeline for the comprehensive plan and zoning hearings, including submittals at the end of April, a municipal planning board meeting on June 18th, followed by council review of the minutes in July, a first reading in August, followed by state agency review, an adoption hearing in October. So the benefits of annexation primarily is the long history the city has of partnering with Tavistock to bring high quality growth and development to the region. This particular site is located near the airport, the Space Coast, Medical City, UCF, Neo City, and other economic development growth areas. So really what we have here are economic and community development opportunities that the city can work together with Tavistock to develop. And an example of the success of that approach is certainly at Lake Nona. It's become an excellent example of innovation in housing, transportation, and employment. When it was annexed in the 1990s, there were a number of critics And I think what you see there today demonstrates that those criticisms have been overcome. So I'll follow up there and see if anybody has any questions.
Okay, questions for Elizabeth? Anybody? And we do have 3 requests to speak. If you'll come identify yourself, you'll be given 3 minutes. So the first is Andrew May, Assistant County Attorney.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Andrew Mai, and I am the Assistant County Attorney for Orange County, located at 201 South Roseland Avenue in Orlando, Florida. Orange County is surprised and concerned about this proposed annexation. We have identified a number of issues in the letter that I submitted for the record, and you should have before you. In summary, the county is disappointed that we were not consulted regarding this annexation. We did not receive the feasibility study of annexation as required by Florida statutes. The governing body of the city, this council, never sent the notification to the Board of County Commissioners as required. The notification was sent by the Director of the Economic Development to the County Comptroller. We are concerned that this failure invalidates any action this council may take related to this item. The proposed annexation fails to comply with Florida Statute 1710432 because none of the parcels proposed to be annexed are developed for urban purposes as defined by that section. We noticed that the proposed annexation is not compact and it creates finger-like areas in the city. We are concerned that the annexation splits a planned development in 2. Planned developments are intended to operate as a whole, and annexing most of a planned development will make the planned development fail, especially since this planned development is very complicated. The county and the applicants have entered into multiple development agreements. The annexation will impair those contracts in violation of the law, and no provisions have been made to address these contracts and to compensate the county for its losses. Furthermore, the city has a duty to provide urban services on substantially the same basis and the same manner as other parts of the city. The feasibility study reveals several deficiencies in services. At this time, we recommend that this annexation and approval of the annexation be delayed until the services can be provided. The county finds the city to be a valuable partner in the development of the region. We are surprised and concerned about this annexation and hope you will take the time to slow the process down so our concerns can be addressed. We request the city not adopt the annexation ordinance. The county would like the opportunity to discuss these matters with the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Elizabeth addressed each of those issues in her presentations, but we are certainly happy to have staff sit down in the next few weeks together. We'll be available and we'll arrange that. Elizabeth, if you can be in charge of that, along with Roy, make sure we have discussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jad Brewer.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Jad Brewer, B-R-E-W-E-R, from Orange County Public Schools, 6501 Magic Way in Orlando, 32809. Provided earlier a letter. We found out about this annexation on Friday from our, the great media that reports in this town. I don't know if you got those, but for the record, I wanted to supply copies. And essentially, the feasibility study and looking at that did not address schools whatsoever. Elizabeth's slide was the first we've seen of that. There's been zero communication about this annexation with Orange County Schools. So, interestingly, the entirety of the Sunbridge PD has a capacity enhancement agreement over it, which requires the dedication of school sites and the dedication of a capital contribution to offset the cost of constructing what will most likely be 3, if not 4, schools in that area to handle the massive amount of growth that was already proposed. Not here to stop growth in any manner or to stop Sunbridge from moving forward. We just want to be a part of this as a partner with the city. The conditions of approval of the PD that Orange County put in place, it's in the letter, condition of approval number 20, provides that the developers, in order to pull permits, must be in compliance with the CEA, as well as that APF, Adequate Public Facilities Agreements, that Ms. Dang referenced, also protects those school interests. So similar to the county, we just echo our concerns that this may be being done at a rapid pace, and we're not communicating effectively and coordinating this so that all the citizens of that future area have the proper services they need. Just ask the commission today to reaffirm its commitment to schools. That condition number 20 should be carried over and should be made a vital part of any PD. I know there's some language you discussed.
We will follow all the agreements that have already been in place with the developer and the school district.
Right, and I'm glad to hear that today.
There is a disagreement on the value of the school capacity agreement, and we'll try to help you guys resolve that together as well.
Right, and that was one of our concerns, that was not addressed in the feasibility
But we're
study.
going to stand pat in terms of all your other agreements.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that commitment, and hope to see everyone at the opening of the new high school out in Lake Nona for next year.
But I would also invite you to sit down with staff and make sure that.
Oh, would love to. We sit down with staff all the time, so.
Okay.
At least quarterly, and usually it's monthly.
If you'll turn around, shake hands with Elizabeth there, she will accommodate you.
We know each other well, thank you.
Okay. And lastly, we have Eric Grimmer.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Eric Grimmer, 574 Terrace Spring Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32828. Not only am I a resident of East Orange County where the proposed annexation would occur, I am also a current member of the Orange County Charter Review Commission, where I also serve as the chairman of our Sustainable Growth Committee. I'm here in my own personal capacity. I'm not representing the CRC or our committee here today. As a committee, we have been considering the idea of creating rural boundaries in the county to guard against ongoing suburban sprawl. You may have heard of our work. It made some local news recently. At our most recent committee meeting, we took a deep dive on joint planning agreements that the county has with various municipalities, which does not include the city of Orlando. Of course, there is an interlocal agreement between the jurisdictions. However, during our meeting, the lack of a joint planning agreement was lamented because of the pressures of ongoing annexations from the county to the city that results in a lack of predictability for future planning efforts. I would personally add that the annexation pressures essentially force the county to perpetuate its own suburban sprawl by bringing the rural Boggy Creek corridor into its own urban service area. As the council is aware, Florida statute requires the annexation request to be reasonably compact. However, we're talking about nearly 6,300 acres of land. The feasibility study declares the annexation area to be reasonably compact, but offers no explanation in support of its conclusion. Like Michael Scott in The Office, attempting to declare bankruptcy by yelling it out to a crowded room of co-workers, just saying something to be the case does not make it so. Reasonably, minds can disagree on a lot of things, but there should be no disagreement that 6,300 acres is not compact. Not only is the annexation not reasonably compact, the city should abandon this request because it's just not cool. Orange County and the city of Orlando are neighbors, collaborators, maybe even friends. We both have a stake in and are actively trying to pursue success and prosperity for the entire region. We cannot realize those goals if we do not work together. To some degree, the success of Orange County and the city of Orlando individually is dependent on actions wholly taken by the other jurisdiction. Therefore, we should endeavor not to undertake actions that would actively be detrimental to our neighbors. The Sunbridge development is going to be bad enough for the Central Florida. It is another glaring example of suburban sprawl that is devouring large swaths of undeveloped land. Land that is vital to deal with ever-increasing amounts of stormwater being dumped on us every year due to more severe storms resulting from climate change. As Sunbridge continues to be constructed, it will be vital that the governing jurisdiction have the environmental capacity to make sure it's being done so in the most responsible manner to the environment. Once it's fully built out, it will be essential that the governing jurisdiction monitors it and ensures that it's not causing ongoing damage to our natural ecosystems. Orange County has a large team in its environmental division with a wealth of experience and years of expertise. The county's comprehensive plan to update Vision 2050 one of its goals is to make planning for the future of Orange County more predictable, and surprise large-scale annexations like this are an impediment to realizing this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Commissioner Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a question for Elizabeth. Is there a timeliness issue of why we're moving this right now versus at a later date?
Well, I think it's important not to stretch it out too long because there are existing property owners. Unlike, for example, when we annexed Starwood next door, it was entirely vacant and the developer was able to take some time to go through that entitlement process. In this case, those entitlements already exist in Orange County and some people have already built according to that. So we need to move at a pace to provide some certainty for the property owners for providing those services to them.
Also, when I first heard about this, the first thing that came to my mind was environmental issues or factors, and I was given some level of my concerns were somewhat addressed with us saying that all the environmental requirements from the county will remain, and they mentioned some addressing topics including water quality, water resource conservation. Has there been any environmental concerns identified that has not been addressed by the county with the property owners that we should be concerned about?
No, as far as I know, the boundaries of the environmental and the wetland areas, that's all been kind of determined. So that's usually the hardest part of this process, is getting that sorted out. And now that the boundaries are here, there are some state and federal requirements, but what Orange County has done very well is provide this stewardship aspect, which means not just showing it as green on a map, but actually going in for invasive species removal, maintaining the quality of the water by being concerned about stormwater runoff and that kind of thing, so that over time those wetlands don't degrade, and in fact you can create an environmental resource. And I think that's one of the kind of advantages to bring it into the city, is being able to participate in that and potentially have some lessons learned for other areas in the city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Stewart, then Commissioner Hill.
I think a couple of quick questions. Has there been similar, I'm trying to think in my mind, has there been other similar properties that have come in with similar environmental requirements when they came into us from the county that you can think of?
Right, so the environmental land stewardship program is relatively new in the last 10 years. So this would be our first time bringing that portion of it in. In the past, we've looked at wetland boundaries and kind of maintained those, but not the specific program.
But there's certainly been some properties in the last 10 years that have come in,
Yes, plenty of properties that have wetlands and open space.
Whatever the agreements that they had with the county, we have maintained.
Right, and the overarching, especially with wetlands, they all fall under the Army Corps and or the Water Management District requirements, which are, in a sense, pulling local governments. The state statute is trying to get local governments kind of out of that review process. And so all of us have to think about ways that we turn more towards protection of open space and kind of bigger picture goals. So we're not the ones necessarily out there with the flag arguing over where the boundary is, but we are the ones saying, hey, are you maintaining your property? Are you taking care of it? That kind of thing.
I know that you had covered a bunch of stuff that was also covered in the letter that we received from the county, and I just kind of want to make sure that I'm on the same page as you. So we see no difference effectively in the environmental and the plan document that's there. I've gotten letters from people who say, I cannot believe you're going to develop thousands of pieces of property over there. My answer, I think, is it's already been approved.
Right, so if that was the concern, that should have been addressed at the time the
county
county
level.
approved the project.
So it's somebody was trying to take advantage of stopping development, wouldn't they want to come into the city and ask us to bring it in with less entitlements? Which we would say, no, these entitlements are there, we're not
Right.
going to take them away from somebody who's
Right.
already gained them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else, I mean, I think you've probably seen the letter as well, anything else in the letter that where, in your interpretation, that it's not accurate? I mean, the timeframes and the other issues that are related, that we've fallen, as best I can tell, in
Right.
line with all that, haven't we?
Yeah, yes. I mean, the feasibility study was sent to the Orange County Comptroller, which is where we sent many other annexation notices over the years, and it's never been a concern. The definition of urban purposes is in the statute, and there's a different sort of criteria that applies depending on which section of the statute you're using. But as our feasibility study explains, we're using the broad definition of the entire chapter. So there, you can try for some technicalities, but we can come back with technicalities. I'm sure Roy has some case law he can pull out if necessary. I don't see anything here that sounds like it would be a showstopper.
Now, outside of the direct services taxes that are available, that would either be applied or not applied based upon who's providing those services. The only other revenue coming out of there is county general revenue, correct? That's what we can tell?
Right. So if you look at an unincorporated property, everybody in the county pays an unincorporated millage rate. They pay the unincorporated. Then there's a county-wide one that city residents pay and county residents. So they'll keep that portion of it. And then the city would get its portion, and that unincorporated rate falls off the bill.
Now, our rates are slightly higher.
They are.
And so we have a property owner who wants to voluntarily come into the city and pay a slightly higher rate for public safety, essentially. Is that correct?
Well, it's for all the services that a city provides. Yep.
Yeah. 'Cause when I look at this from the outside, I would say I can't imagine why the county would actually want to object to this. And the reason is that this will be developed faster, and the plan that they had already be developed faster, and they will get their general revenue quicker than having to lay this over 10 years. It looks to me like it could happen over 3 to 5 years. And that would be a good thing for the county, not necessarily a bad thing, correct? Am I missing that interpretation?
I would agree with that. I'm sure some people might not.
That's okay. I understand. That's what I'm just trying to make sure I understand. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer, and thank you for that presentation. Elizabeth, I still need deeper dives to understand this as a whole, but today I'm supporting it. But there will be no more residential built. Is that what I heard, outside of what Orange County has already approved?
Right, so they've approved about 7,000 units, which is pretty substantial, but the developer's not asking for anything more than what's already approved.
Is that single family or multifamily or a mix?
It's a mix.
It's a mix. And then the 5+ million office space, 2.9 million square feet of industrial and retail and hotel rooms. I guess I asked that, Mayor and Council, and I think I've asked you that also. Nowhere in that Southeast Ridge region can someone come out there to go to work that might need public transportation. And I didn't see public transportation there in the transportation modes of.
Right,
So-
and that's a regional concern with or without this annexation, is providing good transit to this part of Orange County. And, it was a setback when the sales tax referendum was not approved, but I think, both the city and the county are going to have to come up with some strategies there.
Absolutely, I get it, but being a fair and equitable city that we brag about, it's not equitable. This will not be, for me, equitable, and I would like to know about, is it going to be an enclave for the wealthy still? Will it be attainable housing in the area? It should be all throughout the system. So those are some of the questions that I would like for us to have as we move forward about infrastructure, equitable housing, attainable housing.
Commissioner Hill, what I can tell you about that, if we annex it, you'll have a vote on that.
Right.
If we don't annex it,
No,
you
no,
will not have a vote on
that's why I'm supporting it, Mayor. But I do want those type of conversations to
I
be
understand.
had. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
Mayor, I just want to get clarification. So because the county attorney mentioned that, I guess our process in submitting the feasibility study didn't follow, legal requirements.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing I want to know. Do we feel that our process was consistent and then meets all of the legal?
It does, and we spent a lot of time with our attorneys making sure we followed all the steps, and that's an obvious one that you don't want to miss because it's pretty straightforward. So I think we're pretty comfortable that we've done it correctly, and if that's something we need to address with the county, we can certainly speak to them, but I think all of us on staff are very comfortable with our
Commissioner, it's the same way we've done it
process.
since I've been here.
Okay.
And they've never objected till now. So it would be hard to not argue that's a little waiver on their part. And I did happen to listen to the tape where the county commission discussed this, and Mayor Demings acknowledged receipt on whatever date it was. So
The 23rd, yes.
So we're good. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Quick recap. Elizabeth, just correct me. No changes in growth management plan, no changes in land use, no changes in PD, no entitlements, no additional densities, and no changes in conservation easements.
Right.
Pretty much stays everything the same. They
right,
keep the
and
utilities. So
to
the only
be-
thing
right.
here is they rather have doing business with us than doing business with Orange County.
Oh,
Well, I will say that
Let's put it the way it is.
that at some point, we do have to change the future land use and zoning to city categories, because right
Okay.
now, all the rules, so to speak, you have to go look at Orange County documents. We would like for people, future developers, or 20 years from now, when you need a fence at your house, that you can look at a city ordinance. So we will be transferring all that over, and that requires a public hearing process.
Of course.
But the goal is to transfer it, not to wholesale make changes.
Okay,
We would do that with any county property coming in.
exactly.
We must by
It's a
state law
process.
do that,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Just making sure I was clear on that.
Commissioner Gray?
Yeah, I just wanted to say briefly to Commissioner Hill, the last time we did the large PD for Lake Nona with Tavistock, we required them to do 10% of their new housing to be affordable.
Okay.
And so there's no reason we won't hold them to that
Okay.
same standard.
thank you, sir.
Sure.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So the motion carries. I will mention one other thing to Commissioner Hill, since I see Roseanne Harrington out here. If, in fact, we get the Sunshine Corridor done, Roseanne had pushed to have a stop on the other side of the airport that would serve eventually Sunbridge. So there is the capacity to run Sunrail through the airport and onto this property that we're talking about annexing. Okay? All right, let's move to our next item. Okay, hearings ordinances on second reading, number 1, and this relates to the Jetport Center development properties. So let's start with number 1, and then we'll come back to the one that we skipped, and then we'll do number 2. Number 1, Stephanie.
Ordinance number
2328.
2023-28, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located east of Weatherby Road, south of Palm Bay Drive, and north of OUC Railroad, and comprised of 166 acres of land, more or less, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, let's revert back to the rescission order of the Orlando Jetport Center development from hearings number 1. I guess you don't really need to read that, but would you read the title anyways? You with me?
Number 9, Stephanie. Here, so we have to go back.
Yep. Hearings number 1. Yeah, just read. I know we don't need to read it, but I was going to have you read the title anyways.
Rescission order of the Orlando Jetport Center Development of Regional Impact, DRI Development Order, as to parcels 13-24-29-0000-00-007 and 13-24-29-0000-00-008.
Could you read those numbers again? No, excuse me. Move to approve, please.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. I'll open this for public hearing. Do we have any cards? No cards. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. All right, now we are back in order without any disruption, so we are on number 2, ordinance 2023-29. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2023-29, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan, designating certain land generally located east of Weatherby Road, south of Palm Bay Drive, and north of OUC Railroad, industrial in part and conservation in part, further amending the city's growth management plan to create future land use sub-area policy S.36.3, designating the property as general industrial in part and conservation in part in the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, and I think we changed it up. Second by Commissioner Stewart.
I woke up.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests for comment?
No speakers, Mayor.
Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, number 3.
Ordinance number 2023-50, an ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the wastewater element of the city's growth management plan in accordance with the city's 2023 evaluation and appraisal report, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Madam Clerk, any request?
No speakers, Mayor.
No speakers, discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, ordinances on first reading, number 1.
Ordinance number 2024-15, an ordinance of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city portions of Butler Road generally located from the easterly right-of-way line of South Orange Avenue and to the westerly right-of-way line of Oak Place, and comprised of 0.25 acres of land, more or less, and certain land generally located east of South Orange Avenue, west of Oak Place, and south of Butler Drive, and comprised of 0.17 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as urban activity center on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as urban activity center with the SODO Special Plan Overlay District on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and an effective date.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan. Was that you, Commissioner Hill? Second? Second, Commissioner Hill. Madam Clerk, any cards?
No speakers,
No
Mayor.
speakers. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And number 2024-16.
Ordinance number 2024-16, an ordinance amending Chapter 31 City Code, Stormwater Utility Code by amending Section 31.14 City Code to modify the basis on which the stormwater service charge is calculated and to provide for increases in the charge and applicable rate, providing legislative findings, severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Stewart. Madam Clerk, any cards?
No speakers, Mayor.
No speakers. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, that's all of our ordinances. We do have a quasi-judicial hearing. So let's move to item 16-1, quasi-judicial hearing related to 1617 East Washington Street. This is a recommended order from a hearing officer in case QJ 2023-003 relating to the Historic Preservation Board's recommendation of approval of a major certificate of appropriateness to construct a new two-story home with detached garage and accessory dwelling unit within the Lake Lasana Historic District. The applicant is Robert Dietz on behalf of the property owner Doug Dowdney. The petitioner is Mark Kinchla as agent for 1623 LLC. I'm going to have Elizabeth go ahead and give us some background, and then we will hear from the petitioner and the applicant. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Mayor.
You've had a full day, Elizabeth.
I hope you all aren't tired of me yet. All right, once again, my name's Elizabeth Dang. I'm here today to present on 1617 East Washington Street. It was an appeal of the Historic Preservation Board's decision. The project is a single-family lot located at 1617 East Washington Street. It's 0.19 acres in District 4, and you can see it highlighted in blue. The requested action here is to construct a new single-family home with a detached garage and a second-floor accessory dwelling unit on a currently vacant parcel. This parcel was previously split from 1623 East Washington Street in 2022 and is a legal conforming lot. So here you see on the zoning map, it's zoned R2A with the traditional city, historic preservation, and aircraft noise overlays, and it is in the Lake Lasona Historic District. The existing site photos, it's a little hard to see from the street because of the tree cover, but the house you see, a one-story blue house, is on the left, and there's a two-story white house on the right. So this is the proposed residence. It is new construction. It's 2 stories, as well as the 1-story porte cochere. It is a Tudor revival, and it will, the reason the porte cochere is on the left side is that that is closer to the 1-story house, and then the 2-story portion of the house is next to the 2-story home next door. So this is the site plan, and we put it this way so you can see it a little more clearly, but north is to your left there, so the street is on the right. So if you imagine the front of the home on the right there, it does have a 30-foot setback in the front, 6 feet on the east side, which exceeds the minimum setbacks. So the Historic Preservation Board heard the applicant's petition for approval, and staff recommended approval with a number of conditions, the most relevant being some architectural features that should be adjusted, as well as a separate minor review for fencing in the pool, and a small reduction in the square footage, so it's below the 0.50 floor area ratio requirement. The HPB added several conditions, including lowering the height of the roof, and this is done through the pitch. So they weren't talking about taking a floor off, but they were talking about a few inches to lower the height of the roof, reduce the balcony on the right side so it does not extend into the required side setback, provide eaves and fascia consistently around the entire building, and asked staff to review the brick selection, as well as reducing the size of the ADU and the amount of parking in the rear. So that's what was approved. It was appealed by a neighboring property owner. Historic Preservation Board applications are quasi-judicial. Chapter 2, Article 32 of the City Code allows persons dissatisfied with a board recommendation to a de novo or new hearing before an independent hearing officer, and that hearing was conducted on January 11th. So the hearing officer did find that proper notice was given and the petitioner had adequate opportunity to present objections at the hearing. He found that the petitioner failed to present any expert testimony and no convincing lay testimony to support his objections. The petitioner failed to provide competent substantial evidence to support the objections, and found that the HPB board itself acted with competent substantial evidence, and therefore the recommended approval of the application must be approved and affirmed. So the hearing officer's recommendation is approval of the application according to the HPB's recommendation, and the appeal would be denied. So the action required by council is either to adopt the recommended order, adopt with changes, or direct staff to prepare a revised order. And staff's recommendation is to adopt the hearing officer's recommended order, denying the petitioner's petition in opposition in its entirety, and approving the HPB's recommended approval in case number HPB 2023-10282. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Questions or comments for Elizabeth? Then section 2, Commissioner Stewart.
Elizabeth, quick question. The conditions that were placed from HPB and from MPB are part of the order? They went through as part of the order?
Yes, so the
there's-
recommended order was to keep all the conditions
all the
exactly the
conditions?
same, no
Yeah.
changes.
Okay.
Okay, section 2.29 of the Orlando City Code provides that consideration of a recommended order is a quasi-judicial matter and must be based on and limited to the testimony and evidence in the record that was made and considered by the hearing officer. Council may allow staff and each party up to 10 minutes for oral presentation or argument. Historically, we have given each party 5 minutes. Neither staff nor the parties may submit new evidence and must confine presentations to the evidence made part of the record before the hearing officer. We've heard from staff, and now we will hear from the petitioner and then the applicant respondent. So the petitioner is Mark Kinchla. If you'll come forward, you have 5 minutes. So you here?
I didn't think I saw Mark.
No.
I don't think Mr. Kitchla's here. I don't see him in the audience.
Okay, then he waives his time. Mr. Dietz. Okay, well, I'm guessing this kind of makes it an easy decision. I'm going to guess that we might want a motion to approve the hearing officer's recommended order.
Mayor, I will move that to adopt the hearing officer's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Burns. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so the motion carries. Okay, that is the scheduled business for today. Ed, could you get us in position for general appearance?